Hey, Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. You can march into savings with Northwest Motorsports March Down Madness. They're providing special APRs all March long. Get a truckload of savings on the greatest selection of trucks, and more trucks at Northwest Motorsport today. Ton to get to in the show today. Want to watch the show or stream the show somewhere besides the traditional radio and television? You can always go to our station website, stream the show or ESPN Radio 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Just click on Listen Live after you go to 1029ESPN.com. And there, you'll find the stream. You want to get a hold of us, you can always call us or text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888 1029. All guests join us via the Rangish Brothers RV phone line, and you can always find the show on YouTube. We got back from the Big Sky Tournament, and sometimes, unfortunately, that overshadows all the great state tournaments that happen around the state of Montana. Usually the state tournaments are staggered. A lot of times boys and girls for different classifications are in different areas. Sometimes you have as many as 8 tournament sites and as many as 2 or even 3 state tournament weekends. Well, that's not the case this year. All of the state tournaments for the AA, A, B, and C levels took place this past weekend. And the boys and girls tournaments were in the same location for the first time that I can remember. So cool for the schools to be able to be there and support each other and the parents and all that stuff. But unfortunately, we weren't on hand for any of them. That said, spent the evening last night as well as some time this afternoon catching up on all the action. I know we gave you some of the finals from yesterday, but we got some details as well. Plus, we're going to hear from 2 of the heroes of the respective state tournaments. About 4:15, we're going to hear from a guy who made Twitter explode on Saturday night. Dougie McBuckets. It's Dougie Peoples, the outstanding junior from Butte Central. He hit a walk-off. He called game. He hit a three-pointer from about 25 feet away to send Dahlberg Arena into pandemonium. Butte Central gets a 61-58 win over Lewistown to win the Class A state title, the first state title for the Maroons since 1992. About 4:30, so Dougie will join us about 4:15. About 4:30, Braden Cook, the standout for the Helena Capital Bruins, will join us. He hit a buzzer beater in the semifinals to beat Billings Senior, and then guided the Capital Bruins past Bozeman High 62-48 in the AA state championship. So here from Braden. We also have some other interviews coming up later on this week. Efforting Dustin Kraske, the head coach of the Havre girls basketball team, which I feel like he joins us every year because I think they've won the state championship all but one of the years since I've been back at ESPN Missoula. So he's doing a great job up there at Havre. We're also going to hear from Ben Johnson, who's the head coach for the Colstrip girls basketball team later on this week. Also efforting Jeff Belich from Manhattan Christian and Terry Hauser from Three Forks, a couple of my old City League buddies from my days in Bozeman. Both those guys can really hoop, and they can really coach, too, because they're state champions as well. And we'll also get you caught up with a couple people from the Billings Skyview Falcons, their first state championship ever, as well as Roy Winifred, the Class C champions, after going undefeated and one of the great runs in their school's history as well. So look forward to that. 4:15, Dougie Peoples, 4:30, Braden Cook today here on Nuanez Now. We also have our Treasure State Stars for the week, highlighting some of the best performances from around the state of Montana. Hour number 2, an interesting conversation, a good conversation, touching on Tom Brady, the NCAA tournament in terms of marketing and selling tickets, particularly for the women's tournament, and a discussion on maybe the dichotomy of what this surge by Montana State athletics means for the university, the campus community, the city of Bozeman, and the state of Montana. It's not all roses. It is great to get exposure, but as we know, the population is exploding in Montana, and that brings with it exterior concerns, particularly financially, economically, and in business. And so we'll talk to Justin Engel, University of Montana business professor, just about the impact that Montana State's banner athletic year might have on us here in the state of Montana and specifically in Bozeman as well. Very interesting conversation. Then about 5:30, we know the Big Sky Conference representatives heading to the NCAA tournaments. They're both from Montana State. But who else is in the field? What are some of the great draws? Who got hooked up? Who got snubbed? We'll take you through the bracket, some of my impressions of the NCAA tournament bracket, and also give you some more details on the bracket challenge. So there you go. That's our show outlook presented by Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team. Wahlberg team, the official realtors of Grizz Athletics. They can help you with any of your residential real estate questions around the city of Missoula or around western Montana. Need something to do tonight? I know that there's a lot of sports gamblers out there, people that like to wager a little coin. And it's funny because sports gambling has become so mainstream and normalized over the last 2 years. But it's been mainstream and normalized when it comes to one singular event for pretty much the last 35 or 40 years. The NCAA tournament. I know that there's people out there that have probably never put a single dollar into a sports bet machine, never called a bookie, never bet on a game when it comes to in Vegas or otherwise, Atlantic City, never. Instead, you probably, though, threw down $5 on your office pool, $10, fill out the bracket, pick the games based on the mascots or the jerseys or the colors, or maybe your rudimentary and or expert knowledge. You never know. But it is just so funny that it has been a part of our sports culture for quite some time. And it's now becoming mainstream when it comes to betting lines for certain games and futures bets and over-unders and, you know, all of that sort of stuff, point spreads. You're learning. We're continuing to teach you. We have some fun stuff coming up with Sports Bet Montana on the horizon as well, talking about a variety of different elements of sports gambling. We're going to have a series of remotes from some places around Missoula in the month of April. But here's a couple sweet deals that Sportsbet Montana's got going on. They are offering a free bracket challenge there at Sportsbet Montana with a $5,000 grand prize, so that's pretty cool. They also have 50 $100 prizes. You just have to have a Sportsbet Montana account, and you can fill out your bracket from anywhere on a computer or a phone. And you don't know. So for those of you that are familiar with this, there's a Sportsbet Montana app, and usually you have to be within the geo-fenced kiosk. You have to be around the machine. So you can use it on your phone, but you pretty much have to be in an establishment that has one of those machines. This bracket you can do anywhere. You can log in on your cell phone or your tablet or whatever. So that's an interesting fold for sure. But what I was getting into, though, is if you need something to do tonight, how about the Calcutta down at Katie O'Keefe's? Katie O'Keefe's Bar and Casino, one of the best neighborhood hangouts anywhere in Missoula. They're also one of the sponsors of our bracket challenge here at ESPN Missoula. They have a Sportsbet Montana machine, but they're also hosting a Calcutta. So what's a Calcutta if you've never been a part of it? It's like you and your buddies getting together to bet on teams. And some teams, like the Longwoods of the world or, the Texas Southerns of the world, Bryant, those teams probably aren't going to need a bunch of guys to throw down some money. But Gonzaga, Kansas, Duke, some of the favorites in the tournament, you're probably going to want your buddies to throw down on it with you. But if you bet on that team, then you get specific odds. And if that team goes on to win the NCAA tournament, you can get some serious payouts. Calcuttas are very fun. Even if you don't participate, they're very fun to even just watch and hang out at and sort of rabble-rouse around. So you need something to do tonight, head on down to Katie O'Keefe's. They're hosting their annual March Madness Calcutta. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Let's dive into a little prep extra. Speaking of deadlines, today is the deadline, but you still have till the end of this calendar day is finished to submit your application or your student's application for one of 10 $10,000 scholarships presented by Farmers State Bank. They're giving away 10 $10,000 scholarships to some of the top seniors in the state of Montana. Crazy to think the academic year is sort of winding down. We're only about 10 weeks away of the high school academic year. So the deadline, though, for scholarships is today, March 15th. So if you know an outstanding high school senior or you are an outstanding high school senior, visit Farmers eBank and get those applications in because that's a great deal. thanks to Farmers State Bank, they have been enriching the lives of Montanans since 1907. Let's dive into our Prep Extra, which has been perennially presented by Farmers State Bank. Let's talk all the way around some of the state championships. As we mentioned on the show yesterday, the Billings Skyview girls, the Class AA state champions for the first time in their school's history. Skyview opened in 1984. It had the distinction of being the second newest AA high school, I guess the newest ahead of Missoula Big Sky. Missoula Big Sky opened in 1980, Skyview 1984, and then no new AA high schools until recently, and now we've had a couple new ones with first Belgrade moving up, and then the addition of Bozeman Gallatin as well to make the number to 16. But Billings Skyview has had a lot of success in a variety of sports, but never much in girls basketball. And 3 years ago, when the seniors on this current Skyview team were freshmen, this team went 1-19. So this is a phenomenal job by Brent Montague, who's the head coach there at Skyview. And they were able to gut out a 54-44 win over Missoula Hellgate. Hellgate seemed like a team of destiny with so many phenomenal returners, a stacked senior class bolstered by a really talented junior class. I think Alex Coville, junior center for the Knights. She's a true 6'5", maybe even 6'6", long arms, athletic, pretty good hands, great defensive player. She, I think, is going to be a high major recruit. First of all, because of her upside, and just because of her lineage as well. Both of her parents played Division I basketball, both of them here at the University of Montana. She's a great player, and so Hellgate has a bunch of great players on its roster, from Lauren Dick to Bailey Saylor and a bunch of other standouts in between. So heartbreaking end for Missoula Hellgate because that group has played together for quite some time, and they started as freshmen and sophomores, and it looked like they were sort of this team that had put in the work, fallen short like they did a year ago as well in the state championship game, and they come up short again, but that's all the credit in the world to Billings Skyview. Brianna Williams, a sophomore from Skyview, she had 25 points with Coville guarding her, so that's an impressive effort. She was 11 of 12 from the free throw line, and she helps guide Skyview to their first ever state title. Brooke Berry, a senior there for the Falcons, she added 15 points and grabbed 4 rebounds. And according to MontanaSports.com, she was in tears as the final clock wound down, and so very cool for her. She said, quote, to MontanaSports.com, going through all those struggles, having people ask me if I was going to transfer, I said, no, we're going to build this. I know what we're going to do. I know the potential this program has. We built it up, and we made history every single year, including this year. So very cool for her. Brent Montague, who will join us later on this week, Andrew Houghton, our producer at ESPN Radio, is efforting Brent. So we'll share that interview with you either later this week or early next week as we continue rounding up all the high school coaches. He said there's always some excitement with this group. Every challenge I've ever given them, they've always conquered it. This was the final challenge I gave the group of seniors. Unbelievable. So very cool for him. As I mentioned on the boys' side, Helena Capital, they posted a 62-48 victory over a really talented Bozeman team. So congratulations to Guy Almquist, the guy who used to coach here in Missoula. He was Sentinels coach back in the early 1990s. And he is the son of Mr. Almquist, who's a teacher and coach at Missoula Big Sky for a long time as well. So they're a great Montana sports family. So Capital wins the AA boys title. AA girls, the Blue Ponies of Havre, they won their second consecutive state crown and their fourth state title in the past 5 seasons by getting past Billings Central 37-30. We will have more from Dustin Kraske, the head coach of the Havre Blue Ponies. And then in Class B, it was Three Forks on the boys' side, Colstrip on the girls' side, and in Class C, Manhattan on the boys' side, and Roy Winifred, undefeated in Class C girls basketball, to take home the Class C girls state championship. We go down the Regis Brothers RV phone line, though, and bring in one of the heroes of this last weekend. He already got himself a nickname as only a junior in high school. They're calling him Dougie McBuckets. It's Dougie Peoples, Butte Central Junior, joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Dougie, what's up, my man? Thanks for taking some time. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks so much for being with us here today. And first and foremost, we got to start. Of course, we love having you, and we love having anybody from the mining city on this show. But first and foremost, we got to ask you, you hit the buzzer beater, you hit the walk-off here in Missoula to win the Class A state championship, and you go back to Butte. And I spent a lot of time in Butte. I love Butte, Montana. What's it like being in Butte when you just led the Maroons to a state title?
Oh, it's awesome. The Butte community is amazing, and just doing that for Butte was just awesome. And coming back to such a great supporting community was just the best feeling.
Well, let's go through the state championship game. You guys are battling it out with a great Lewistown team, one of the best Lewistown teams that Fergus County High School has had in, honestly, decades. I think it was their first state title appearance since the mid-1980s. And you guys are going back and forth. So as that game's winding down, what's your emotions like, and how are you able to stay in it? Because it looked like there was a phenomenal crowd on hand. We were unfortunately in Boise covering the Big Sky tournament, so weren't there in person, but saw the videos. Looked like there was a great crowd on hand. How are you able to handle the pressure when it's a state title on the line and you have a packed arena here at Dahlberg?
Yeah, it was awesome. All of Butte came down and supported us, and it looked like Fergus had like almost the entire town there supporting them. And it was extremely loud. But once the game started playing, we really settled in, and we almost blocked out the crowd. But it was still just such an amazing atmosphere playing with both sides just being so loud in the Dahlberg.
And you had it cooking at 34 points before you hit your walk-off. But as the clock's winding down and you cashed the shot, did you know it was going in right when you shot it?
I am, to be honest, I've been asked that, but I don't remember it.
Right.
I think in the video, I think I was holding my follow through, and then it was like almost I looked over to my coach and I put my hands on my head and my mouth dropped, and just the party was on, and my coach just grabbed me and hugged me, and it felt like we hugged for like 2 minutes.
The best part about the video, you can find it. If you're listening to this on SWX Montana, you can always go to the SWX Montana website, and Sean Rainey, or on Twitter as well. Sean Rainey has a great video of the walk-off, our good buddy. But Dougie Peoples joining us here, by the way, on Nuanez now. The best part of the video is, you're right, you can see yourself hit it, and your whole bench erupts. The coaches and the players are running around. They're trying to mob you, and you're just in like a state of shock. It's awesome.
I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I looked up and everyone was just cheering, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream come true.
Well, take us through Butte Central's season, because I know Butte Central is such a distinctly interesting high school in the state of Montana. You guys don't have a lot of kids there, but you continue to compete at the Class A level. I know a lot of the great athletes from Butte have played at Butte Central throughout the years, not just during your time, but for a really long time. But state basketball championships have eluded Butte Central since the early 1990s, even though they've had so many great players come through there. So take us through the season. How are you guys able to make this run? What was some of the special parts about the team and just the way that you guys were able to navigate the schedule?
I think that one special thing about our team is we played a great Dillon team on the road. I think we were 11-0, and we got down by about 12, and we didn't handle that adversity very well. They ended up beating us by about 17 points. And that was a real gut check in our season, because we were rolling high. We thought we were one of the best teams. We were very confident in ourselves, and they really just punched us right in the gut, and that was a gut check. And then the next game we played Hamilton, who I think at that time was ranked number 3 in the state, and we held them to 1 point in the first quarter. And that was really like the time where we were like, okay, we can do this. We battled through that adversity, and then facing Dillon again in the district championship, we played them, and we got down about the same amount as we did that last time. But this time we fought back, and we clawed our way back into the game, and we ended up winning that game, I think, by a point. We got a defensive stop with like 20 seconds left, and that was one of the coolest games that I've played in all my high school career, counting that state championship. It was all of Dillon was packed, and that district championship game was really special.
Dougie Peoples joining us, Butte Central junior, after leading the Maroons to the Class A state title. And let's talk about the last year overall, because you guys were co-champions last year, but you didn't get to play. I guess it was 2 years ago in 2020. So I'm sure there was some lingering guys from that squad, or at least people around the high school knew when Butte Central was there in the Class A title game and then didn't get to play it. So was there a sense of sort of getting another shot? Was there a sense of redemption here for just Butte Central as a whole, getting to win this state title this year?
Oh yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, it was awesome. All those seniors that were on the 2020 team. I think there was 9 of them on that team. They were all there. They were all supporting us. And right after we won, all of them were right on like the fence or whatever, and they were all giving us hugs. They were all crying. We were all crying, and it was just such a special moment to share that moment with them because they got that moment taken away from them. It was almost like, we did this for you. Come, and we just celebrated with those guys, and it was just, that's the great thing about Butte Central. We're just one big family.
That is a great part about it. It also seems like there's such a reverence for history, such an appreciation for history and all of the great athletes and all of the great people that have come through that high school. So I got to ask you, you must be related to Don Peoples. Is that your dad?
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's my uncle.
Oh, your uncle. Okay, so I figured with the last name that you must be at least related to the Peoples there in Butte. So very cool. How much does that influence you though when you were a kid growing up? I mean, did you idolize anybody, or was anybody you looked up to growing up as a little kid that was playing for the Maroons?
Yeah, so I had my cousin Molly, my cousin Quinn, my cousin Marissa, and my cousin Danny, who all were great Butte Central Maroons, and they. Growing up, I watched Molly win a state championship, and I watched Quinn win a state championship as well. And Danny played in a football state championship, and it was just awesome growing up, watching those people compete and get such a cool opportunity. And I mean, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to go to Central. I wanted to be a Maroon, and I wanted to win a state championship just like they did. Watching them do it in such a cool way just inspired me, and it's just so cool that I got to share that moment with my cousins and my whole family because it's such a tradition in our family.
How about your coach, Brody Kelly? I know he's been there for a little while at Butte Central. How much does he help influence this season and guide you guys?
I mean, in my opinion, Brody Kelly is the best coach in the entire state. I think we have 96 kids in our high school right now. The smallest in A by, I think the second closest is Billings Central with 300 something. And Brody continues to make the state tournament. I think out of his 16 years, he's made state 18 times. He's incredible. He's such an amazing coach, and that guy is just amazing. That guy's a walking legend.
Dougie Peoples joining us here on Nuanez Now. He's a Butte Central junior after guiding the Maroons to the Class A state championship for 2022. Hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to help the Maroons outlast Lewistown in the Class A state championship game. The final score, 61-58. And Dougie, I was thinking about this. Butte has such great sports culture, and people in Butte people in Montana love sports, but people in Butte particularly love sports. But I was thinking Touchdown Tommy, you and Tommy Millot. I know he's from Butte High. I know there's a little rivalry between Butte Central, but I'm thinking you guys should go out together and go see how many free steak dinners you can get in Butte.
It's funny. Me and Tommy have been texting a little bit.
Love it.
We're kind of some close family friends, and he's just been guiding me through this whole thing. Tommy Millot might be the nicest kid that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting in my entire life. He is. Right after I hit that, he was texting me, and he's just an amazing person. And I understand why everyone loves Tommy because he's truly like a hero. He's like the nicest kid ever. Oh my, he's amazing.
Well, you gotta love it. It's always awesome when the mining city has some new sports heroes because people around those parts, they really love it. It always inspires people around the state of Montana as well. Dougie Peoples joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. And congratulations, man. That was an awesome highlight to watch, and it's awesome talking to you here today. I'll let you go, but enjoy yourself. Enjoy all of the praise that's going to get heaped upon you and your teammates because it's a special moment, and we wish you the best of luck in the future. Maybe we'll talk to you again soon, but thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
There you go, Dougie Peoples. Dougie McBucket's the walk-off. If you haven't seen the video, go watch it. It's so sweet. This is like what high school sports are all about. First of all, Dahlberg was rocking. It was the best crowd in Dahlberg this year, period. There was way more people there than was there for the Cackards men's basketball game, no question. And the whole Butte community was there showing out. The Lewistown community had almost everybody there too. And for this kid to pull up from by 6 feet behind the college three-point line and drill it for the walk-off to win state, are you kidding me? Unbelievable. And not only that, it ends a 30-year drought for Butte Central as well. And so, there's all sorts of dynamics that go into this, but the fact that Butte Central is a private Catholic high school in the mining city, they've had a hard time with numbers, just pure numbers. And there's been some debates whether maybe they should go to a co-op in football or what their future, what their validity is in playing Class A sports. So to win a state championship, it validates the level that they're at. If they can win a state title, why would they move down? Why would they do anything else, even if they do have less than 100 kids? So, it's cool for schools like that to prove that they belong and to extend their rich history of tradition, because I think that sort of stuff, it's important, especially in communities like Butte, where high school sports is such a positive thing, and it's such a thing that unites people and brings them together, and such a thing that people around there just love. I think that's also just tremendously awesome that Tommy Millott, touchdown Tommy from the Montana State Bobcats, and Dougie Peoples are texting and keeping up, because, like you said, Tommy Millott's one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet, and I think it's great that he's showing support for another one of the mining city's finest. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. More high school state hoops roundups, including another one of the standouts from the state tournaments from over the weekend. Braden Cook led the Helena Capital Bruins to the state title in Billings. He joins us next here on Nuanez Now. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio.
Have you ever worried if you're up to snuff in the bedroom? Are you looking to skip the waiting lines in the admission at the pharmacy? Do you want effective male enhancement delivered right to your door? Palmer's Drug of Missoula has you covered. All you need is a prescription from a doctor and a home address for Palmer's Drug to ship to. If you want to improve your love life and get right in the bedroom, all while keeping it discreet, look into home delivery through Palmer's Drug. Palmer's Drug, your trusted local pharmacy in Missoula.
Hey there, Cole through Nuanez from Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Here with Tom. Window tinting is at an all-time high demand. So, Tom, how do people get a hold of you to get their car on the books at Aspen Sound?
Coulter, well, at this time of year, we stay pretty busy with the window tints, so make sure just to give us a buzz, and we'll get you on the books. With the warm weather right around the corner, it's good to get in early rather than late.
Aspen Sound, located at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
It's time to gear up for spring sports and adventure at Bob Ward's. Save now on new gear for soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, and more. Hit the links with new golf apparel, clubs, bags, and more. Everything you need for any spring sports is in stock now, with more arriving daily at Bob Ward's. Grab the latest styles from top brands in the athletic department. Get technology and style in the newest footwear from Brooks, Hoka, Under Armour, and all your favorite brands. Even our camping and water sports department are stocked with new gear. Gear up at Bob Ward's. Sports and outdoors, Montana style.
Here at Florence Coffee Co., we are proud to serve the finest flavors under the big sky, like our smooth and delectable cold brewed toddy coffee. Florence Coffee's fresh brewed toddy coffee is known for its low acidity and smooth flavor. Served over ice, add your favorite flavor or an iced coffee like no other. Try one today at any of our Flowco locations around Western Montana and visit us at florencecoffeeco.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
You hear the term small business all the time, but what does it mean? The answer is, it depends. Whether you're a one-woman show or employ over 100 people, at Farmer State Bank, your business is never small to us. Find the tools for success at any Farmer State Bank location or check us out online at farmersebank.com. Farmer State Bank, helping businesses succeed since 1907. Member FDIC.
The Silver Slipper is the place to watch all the basketball madness this month. Monday through Friday happy hour from 5 to 7 p.m. Half off drinks, $1 off beer, and $1 off wine. There will be daily drink and food specials, plus the Silver Slipper Bracket Challenge with prizes for first through third place and a daily drawing for a gift card. Must be present to win. The Silver Slipper has over 55 TVs, so you won't miss a game. Head on down to the Silver Slipper, across from Walmart on Highway 93 in Missoula. The Silver Slipper is the place to watch all the basketball madness this month.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
State champions were crowned across high school hoops in the state of Montana over the weekend. Hello, I am Coulter Nuanez. At the Class AA tournaments in Billings over the weekend, Billings Skyview has its first girls state championship after defeating Western AA's best Missoula Hellgate 54-44. Skyview sophomore Brianna Williams poured in 25 points, and the Falcons won their first state championship since the high school opened in 1984. Just a few years ago, Skyview finished 1-19, marking one of the great rebuilds in state history. Missoula Hellgate was the Western AA champions, and they fall in the state championship game for the second time in 3 years. Hellgate senior Bailey Saylor led the Knights with 18 points in the loss. In the AA boys tournament, Braden Cook hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to lift Helena Capital to a 53-50 win over Billings Skyview in the tournament semifinals, ensuring that the Bruins would get a shot at the state championship. In the title game, Cook and the Bruins had no problem dispatching of Eastern AA number 1 Bozeman, defeating the Hawks 62-48. And finally in Missoula at the Class A state championships, Dougie Peoples of Butte Central made a moment straight out of a movie when he drilled a 25-footer at the buzzer to cap a 37-point state title outing and lift Butte Central to a 61-58 win over Lewistown to give the Maroons their first Class A state championship since 1992.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Stay flossing in that candy paint, flowing down, sipping drink on 84 Swan, tearing up the line. Little daddy, you can tell I'm ballin' from the way I'm flossing. 84s, I'm crawling, screens falling as I slide up and down your block with a chain full of rocks and princess cuts in my white high now. A lot of people calling, but back then they left.
What up, Montana? Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Maybe you're watching in SWX Montana Television. Thanks for being with us. We're back in the studio. We were on the road all week last week as part of our tournament takeover. We were in Boise, Idaho, coming to you live courtside at Idaho Central Arena. We'll be on the road again Thursday and Friday to close out our tournament takeover. We're heading to sunny San Diego, California. The Montana State men's basketball team takes a number 14 seed into the first round of the NCAA tournament. They take on third-seeded Texas Tech. That game will tip at 11:45 a.m. Friday. So we'll have our show from San Diego, downtown San Diego, actually, which will be fun, on Thursday. And then we'll be heading to San Diego State's campus, and we'll do the show from there. We'll have a full recap of the Bobcat game, as well as the rest of the day, both at that tournament site as well as across the NCAA tournament as well. We will also have more details for you on our ESPN Montana Nuanez Now Bracket Challenge upcoming as well. We have almost $3,000 worth of cash and prizes for our top 3 placers in that bracket challenge. So keep the entries coming in. You're going to want to have them all entered in by Thursday. But because we were in Boise last week, we were not on hand for any of the state championships or any of the state tournaments across the state of Montana. But I had a great time reading and watching. So shout out to all the media out there in the state of Montana, no matter who you're affiliated with. I know we're all kind of quote-unquote competition, but sports in Montana, especially covering high school sports, we sometimes got to collaborate and work together. And so shout out to all the print and TV and radio people out there that help contribute to all this, the coverage. Hashtag MT Scores is so sweet on Twitter to follow it all along. And so it was great catching up with everybody, seeing all the results, seeing all the state championships and all the state champions, and for having some of the great players and standouts from those state championship teams with us here on ESPN Radio. We go now to the Rankish Brothers RV phone line and welcome in one of those young men. He's Helena Capital senior Braden Cook joining us. His team, a 62-48 victor over Bozeman to take the Class AA state championship home. Braden, thanks so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Well, very good. Let's talk about this state tournament run. First of all, let's talk about the Western AA divisionals, because the divisional format's pretty new. It's only been around for a few years, and you guys really got pressed, including in the championship game, by an upstart Missoula Big Sky team who kind of had an up-and-down year this year, but peaked at the right time and went on to get third at the state tournament. So take us through that divisional championship game, because it seemed like a really entertaining, really hard-fought game. How are you guys able to come out on top in that?
Oh, yeah, I think in the first half we just kind of underestimated them, and just watching them throughout the year, us beating them without me kind of gave us confidence. So I think we kind of went into it just a little cocky, but in that second half, it was just a hard-fought battle, just back and forth. And then we just kind of took over at the end and just started playing together and got away with the win.
How much do you think just earning the number one seed out of the West then sets you up in the bracket? Do you think it helped you?
Oh, yeah, I think it helped us a lot, actually.
You get that first game under your belt against Bozeman Gallatin, and then you get a slugfest against Billings Skyview. And Skyview's been really good the last couple years. And, Coast State champions a couple years ago when it all got called off. And it's coming down to the wire. You guys go to overtime. And before we get to what was kind of your version of the walk-off shot, just take us through that game. I mean, what was Skyview doing that kept them in it? And when you are in this undefeated semifinal game at the state tournament, what's your nerves like when you're battling it out and then the game goes to overtime?
It's always kind of nerve-wracking. We, as a team, didn't go into any overtime games, so just having one of those hard-fought battles was fun in the moment, but kind of nerve-wracking. And we even had I think 11-point lead before in like the third quarter or something, but they came back, they started hitting shots, and of course a good team's going to make a run at the state tournament. But just we played hard and fought towards the end, and then fourth quarter there was only 2 points, or overtime there was only 2 points scored, so not too much action going on.
But then the action culminates in you, and the highlight is awesome. You can find it on Twitter. You can find it on SWX Montana's website as well. Braden Cook from Helena Capital will join us, by the way, here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. But a little jab step back, nothing but net to send your team to the state title game. So what'd you see on it, and what did it feel like to hit that shot, that walk-off in Billings?
Yeah, I just came around the screen, pump faked the guy, and got a good look. And once I released it, it felt amazing, and went in.
Then you guys have to play Bozeman, and I know Bozeman got upset at the Eastern AA Divisional by Belgrade because the tournament was in Belgrade, and the Panthers knocked them down but didn't knock them out, and the Hawks come all the way back through there. But they were one of the best teams in the state, and certainly the best team in the East most of the season. But you guys handled them in the state championship game. 62-48, Helena Capital emerges with their third state basketball crown in school history over Bozeman, who was gunning for their 12th state championship. But what was your thoughts going into the game? Because even though maybe Bozeman wasn't the top seed out of the East coming into this thing, you had to know that the Hawks were pretty darn good throughout the year.
Oh, yeah, we knew coming into that game that it was going to be a battle, and we played them early on in the year, so we kind of knew what our opponent was going to be like and how they played. So just we knew they were going to be a good team, and even us being up by, I think, 12 at half,
yep,
we knew that they were going to even make a run or something, so we couldn't come out. We had to maintain our lead and keep playing together, and that's what we did.
Well, Guy Almquist, a guy who's coached around the state of Montana for a long time. I know he's got some Missoula ties as well. But what sort of influence do you think he had on this whole run, and what's it been like playing for Coach Almquist? Because I know he's been around there at Capital for a long time, has a lot of pride in the Bruins. So how much do you think he helped you guys and helped guide you to the state title?
Oh, he helped us a lot. He knows what we're capable of, and he held us accountable just to be the best version of ourselves and just work the hardest and give full effort. And he guided us all the way there, and it's been an awesome 4 years playing for him, and he's one of my best mentors, honestly.
Braden Cook joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. He's a senior at Helena Capital High School. Capital, the Class AA state champions in boys basketball after finishing with a 22-2 record. Braden had 20 points in that state championship game, plus a buzzer beater in the semis to get the Bruins there. And Braden, I know you're going to go play for a good friend of this show, Kurt Paulson, a guy who I've known for a long time there at Carroll College. So take us through your college decision and what led you to choose to stay in your hometown and play for the Saints.
I think just stay in the frontier and just kind of get a lot of playing time and playing for Kurt. I've known him since my sophomore year, so we've got a good bond going, and I love the school. I went and toured it, and once I toured it the first time, I just kind of felt like I belonged there already. And all the guys, they came up to me and met all of them, and they were just awesome to me. and just staying in my hometown, being around my family and all the Bruins supporters, and just going to be an awesome fit for me, I think.
Well, very cool for you, for your family. Carroll College, a phenomenal academic institution as well, so I'll definitely set you up well for your future. We'll get you out of here on this, though. I love looking at all the pictures and the photos and everything, but when you were standing there in the middle of the Billings Metro, you were holding that state championship trophy high above your head. That must have felt pretty good. So what's it like being a state champion?
Still on cloud 9 right now. Just haven't had any sad thoughts yet, but just a super high moment. It's super fun.
Braden Cook, Helena Capital, recently anointed state champion. The Bruins, their third state championship in school history after beating Bozeman 62-48. Braden, thanks so much for taking some time today, my man, and enjoy it. I don't think you're going to have any sad thoughts anytime soon. Pretty cool for you and your teammates. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
There you go, one of the best in the state, Braden Cook. Dougie Peoples led the show, and I think that's probably the top two candidates for boys Montana Gatorade Player of the Year. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Not necessarily all about the individual awards. Both those guys already got state championships, and that's what it's all about. So congratulations to both of them, and awesome having both of them here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. It's a Tuesday, so that means it's a Taglieri Tuesday, except we don't have a tag giveaway for you today because Taglieri is part of our awesome Bracket Challenge prize package. Tag was kind enough to roll their gift cards into the prizes for our Bracket Challenge. So head on over to ESPN.com, search Nuanez Now, ESPN Montana, on the National Bracket Challenge. You'll find the group. It's free to enter, just one entry per person. I already have that set, so there's no deliberation or debate. That's just is what it is. But one entry per participant. But head on over there, and you'll be eligible to win all sorts of great prizes. Our grand prize worth more than $1,000. We have $400 cash prize from Paradise Falls, our presenting sponsor of the Bracket Challenge. We also have a $250 gift card from Dazzler's Car Wash. We also have gift cards from the AC Hotel, Taglieri Deli, and Katie O'Keefe's. Plus, we got some memorabilia boxes from Zootown Sports Cards, and we got some coupons from the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. So get on over there, go enter into our Bracket Challenge, and see if you can beat up on each other, see if you can beat us here at ESPN Radio as well. After the first two rounds are over, we'll probably have some sort of a reseed contest, some sort of a redo like we like to do around here as well. But get your brackets in because the tournament, it starts tomorrow for the first four, but the actual 64-team field, it starts Thursday early in the morning. So you better get that bracket in. Go enter our Bracket Challenge presented by Paradise Falls of Missoula. If you need any place to watch any of the NCAA tournament, whether it's the first four tomorrow or any of the action throughout the next 4 days, you can head on down to Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street here in Missoula. They have 30 big screen TVs, 18 draft beers, and they also have a Sportsbet Montana kiosk, which will be exceptionally fun this time of year. So if you need some place to watch any and all of the tournament action for both the NCAA men's and women's tournaments, head on down to Paradise Falls, your go-to spot on the south side of Missoula, Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hotspot. How about our Treasure State stars for the week? There is a ton of them. I got a list of 9. I probably could have made a list of 20. We'll go through all of the outstanding individual performances from across a state tournament weekend in high school hoops. Back after this, keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
This is Brandon G. Fowler, consumer and construction lender with Stockman Bank. We are proud to be the statewide sponsor of the Montana High School Association's sportsmanship program. At Stockman, supporting and encouraging our youth has always been important to us. We are excited to partner with an organization that promotes teamwork and good sportsmanship to Montana students of all ages, developing tomorrow's leaders through good sportsmanship today. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
The world of real estate is is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
I'm all about keeping my family driving safe. Dad, pothole.
Got it.
So I insist we choose Les Schwab tires for safety services like brakes, steering, and alignment. Stuff those cheap tire centers don't offer. Because I want a backseat drive with confidence. Dad, speed check.
At the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale, save up to $150 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Have you ever worried if you're up to snuff in the bedroom? Are you looking to skip the waiting lines and the admission at the pharmacy? Do you want effective male enhancement delivered right to your door? Palmer's Drug of Missoula has you covered. All you need is a prescription from a doctor and a home address for Palmer's Drug to ship to. If you want to improve your love life and get right in the bedroom, all while keeping it discreet, look into home delivery through Palmer's Drug. Palmer's Drug, your trusted local pharmacy in Missoula.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Here with Tom. Window tinting is at an all-time high demand. So, Tom, how do people get a hold of you to get their car on the books at Aspen Sound?
Coulter, well, at this time of year, we stay pretty busy with the window tints, so make sure just to give us a buzz, and we'll get you on the books. With the warm weather right around the corner, it's good to get in early rather than late.
Aspen Sound, located at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Scoops of butter. Before I leave the crib, I tell my mother I love her. Grab the but she ain't concerned cause he's a earner. My lays it out real nice for me to be fight, wake up like Ike and Tina Turner. It's a privilege to ride with a celeb. Cause them girls over there don't got a problem with you. Paranoia's on you, that's why your llama's in your bed. A real chinchilla and boss a mama for your head. On the block I'm from, you can be damn near 40 and still tucking. Baby mamas.
Man, amazing how famous you can be and then not be famous anymore. What happened to G-Unit? This today's playlist is inspired by G-Unit because I'm without a car. One of my great friends, a brother of mine, he is in the process of moving back to Montana. He has several vehicles, one of which he drove here to then fly back to drive another one back home. And he let me borrow what he calls his G-Wagon, which is his old school Mercedes SUV. So riding around in early 2000s G-Wagon and just thinking about how big time 50 Cent and G-Unit used to be. I mean, Lloyd Banks, man, those guys were like on top of the world. And I don't know. It seems like they all just sort of rode off into the sunset. It wasn't even that they were famous and then made like bad albums and became unfamous. They were just famous and then they were just gone. And I don't really know what happened to them. But, hey, better to be famous once and than to be never famous at all. I mean, maybe not. I don't really know. But for those guys, I'm sure it was just fine. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I am Colter Nuanez, coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. You can march into savings with Northwest Motorsports Markdown Madness. They're providing special APRs all March long. You can get a truckload of savings on the greatest selection of trucks, and more trucks at Northwest Motorsport. Visit NWMS Rocks today to check out the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. You got feedback for us? You got questions, comments, concerns? Call us, text us, 406-888-1037. 888-1029. That's 888-1029. All guests will join us via the Rangers Brothers RV phone line. But you can always text, and Andrew will send those right along to me. Let's dive into our Treasure State Stars for the week. Treasure State Stars presented by Parkside Credit Union, highlighting some of the best individual performances from around the state of Montana. Parkside Credit Union, one of the best places in all of western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Treasure State Star number 1, we heard from him right off the top of the show, Butte Central Junior. I almost called him a senior because it's impossible to think this guy still has another year of high school basketball coming back. But the fresh-faced kid from Butte Central, Dougie Peoples, Dougie McBuckets is what they're calling him on Twitter. This kid is a bucket. He's a walking bucket. He was one of our standouts all throughout the year. We talked about it multiple times on this show. And then the dude has one of the great finales to a season that we've ever seen in the state of Montana. Class A state championship tournament here in Missoula at Dahlberg Arena. Packed to the gills for the Saturday night throwdown between Butte Central, gunning for their first state title in 30 years against the Fergus County Golden Eagles that were going for their first state title since the mid-1980s. It comes all the way down the wire. It's tied 58-58, the end of regulation, and Dougie Peoples hits a pull-up jump shot from about 6 feet behind the college three-point line. Boom. Buckets. Butte Central, Class A state champs for the first time since 1992. Amazing. Unbelievable performance by the Maroons. They finished 22-2, and they get their first state title in 30 years. Dougie Peoples with the walk-off, Treasure State Star number 1. Not to be denied, not to be trifled with, Braden Cook, he also had a highlight, but it came the round before. Braden Cook, probably the best player in Class AA. He led the Helena Capital Bruins to a 22-2 finish and the Class AA state championship. They capped it with a 62-48 win over Bozeman, and Cook had 20 points in that one, but it was his three-point shot at the buzzer in overtime to lift Capital past Billings Skyview. That was the highlight of the boys AA tournament in Billings. So Braden Cook, for his buzzer-beating accomplishments as well as his 20 points in the state title game and leading Helena Capital to their third state title in school history, he's our Treasure State Star number 2. Treasure State Star number 3, Brianna Williams. She's a sophomore at Billings Skyview. She had the unenviable task of going up against Alex Coville from Missoula Hellgate. There were several defenders on her, but she's a post player, and she had to go up against Coville. And Coville is 6'5", maybe 6'6", arms for days. And Brianna Williams was able to win that matchup handily as a sophomore. Pretty impressive by her. 25 points. She was 11 of 12 at the free throw line. She helped get Coville into a bit of foul trouble, which also helped open up the lane for the Skyview Falcons. And Billings Skyview, a 54-44 win over Missoula Hellgate in the Class AA state championship game. And Skyview, their first state title in their history. They've been a high school since 1984, and that was their first state championship in their history. So congratulations to them. Treasure State Star number 4, it's Bailey Saylor. She's a senior at Missoula Hellgate. She had 18 points in that state title game. Hellgate falls just short, but you can't say enough about the job that Rob and Brady Henthorne, the father-son co-coaches there at Missoula Hellgate, have done. They invested in young talent and took their lumps when those girls were young, and now here they are. They've played for back-to-back state championships, and they do lose Bailey Saylor. They do lose Lauren Dick, but they have some tremendously talented young ladies coming back there at Missoula Hellgate as well. So they continue to do a great job, both the boys and girls side there at Hellgate High School. And Hellgate girls, they'll be back. Treasure State Star number 5. Here is your name of the day. Kansas, spelled C-A-N-Z-A-S, Kansas, His Bad Horse from Colstrip. What a cool name. She couldn't let go of that Class B state title trophy after her team, the Colts, raced to it. They defeated Jefferson High School 56-43 Saturday night in a nearly packed to the brim Brick Breeden Fieldhouse. And His Bad Horse, she had 25 points and 11 rebounds as Colstrip avenged their only defeat of the season. Must give a little shout out to our great friend and colleague Tom Stuber, a guy who helped us out with some football feature writing at Skyline Sports throughout the recent completion of the 2021 football season. And Tom was also along for the ride when we went to the FCS National Championship game down in Frisco, Texas. And as we were finishing up our coverage, our features and stuff from that FCS National Championship game after North Dakota State drilled Montana State. We had to pull up the national high school stream because Tom, he has a daughter on Jefferson High School, and they had a great run. To fall just short in the state championship is definitely one of the most heartbreaking moments a high school athlete can go through. But in retrospect, when a couple of years down the road, they'll realize making it to the state championship is better than almost everybody else did. So congratulations to Jefferson and Tom's daughter for their great season as well. We kind of got a firsthand look at it watching the district tournaments when we were there at the Airbnb in Frisco. But Kansas his bad horse, from Colstrip, our Treasure State star number 5. Treasure State star number 6, it's Owen Long from Three Forks. He was a model of efficiency, going 6 of 10 from the floor and scoring 16 points. He had 2 of the highlights of the game as Three Forks outlasted Harlem in the Class B state title game. He had a deep putback to beat the first quarter buzzer, and he also had a two-handed tomahawk dunk early in the third quarter. So Owen Long helped spearhead the Three Forks squad to their Class B state championship. Treasure State star number 7, Seth Amenrud. He wound up with 18 points and was 9 of 10 from the free throw line. He helped lead Manhattan Christian to the Class C state championship with a 55-35 victory over Freud Lake. I misspoke earlier. Jeff Belich, no longer the head coach for the Manhattan Christian boys. He was doing what seems like an impossible job, coaching both the boys and the girls at the same time. I don't even know how you do that, but Jeff Belich was, and now he's just coaching the girls. And I forgot that one of my good buddies from my time living in the Gallatin Valley, Lane Glaus, the head coach of the Manhattan Christian Eagles. So have to hit up Lane. And I'm always telling stories about the Bozeman City League, but man, there's just so many great basketball players in Montana, but particularly so many that stick around Bozeman, that men's A-League in Bozeman is just nuts. Like, you got to have a squad. I just had some guys when I was first there that were just, good, whatever. I'm not even a good basketball player. I'm just a good general manager. But I had some guys that were, standout high school players and stuff. You think that's good enough to hang? Not so much. You got to get some D1 talent in there. So I used some of my connections, started recruiting some ex-Bobcats, some ex-Grizzlies, some ex-NAIA players. But one of the dudes who's one of our best recruits was Lane Glaus, and he's now the head coach of Manhattan Christian. But he was an absolute bucket during his time at Whitehall as a standout prep star. He was an absolute bucket at Montana Western, and now he's doing a great job as a high school head coach. So always cool when you know the guys, when you know where they came from and how they came up, and now they're leading the youth here in our communities in Montana. So congratulations to Lane and the Manhattan Christian Eagles, and also congratulations to Seth Amenrud, our Treasure State star number 7 for the week. Treasure State star number 8, it's Dustin Kraske. He's the head coach for the Havre Blue Ponies. Back-to-back state titles for Havre, and 4 in the last 5 years, They're a bona fide dynasty there in Class A. One of our guys, Jeff Safford, who's helping produce the show and also working as the play-by-play guy for the Missoula Paddleheads, the University of Montana lacrosse team. And coming up in the future, Grizz Hockey. He was up on the Highline for a couple of years. So he's going to share an interview with Coach Kraske later on this week. So there you go. There's our Treasure State Stars for the week. It's presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union, one of the best places in western Montana to get a loan, because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. Was it tactful the way Tom Brady announced his retirement and his unretirement? How about the equity, but also marketing and ticket sales when it comes to the NCAA women's basketball tournament? And also, Montana State is having a banner year in athletics. Great for the campus community. What's it do to the economy of the Gallatin Valley? We'll discuss all 3 with Justin Angle, a business angle, the overlay between business and sports. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
Back
back by popular demand. Zootown Sports Cards presents the Missoula Sports Card and Collectibles Show. Check out exceptionally rare and coveted cards and goods from more than 40 vendors from around the state and region. It's all going down at the Doubletree Hotel Saturday, April 2nd, 10 till 5. Admission for attendees is free. JSA authentication will be on site, so come check out the hottest in the memorabilia industry at the Missoula Sports Card and Collectibles Show at the Doubletree, April 2nd, presented by Zootown Sports Cards of Missoula. As the seasons change in Montana, it's critical to make sure your vehicle is in full working order. And that's why now is the time to take your rig to Crawford's Automotive. Crawford's Auto on West Broadway does any work you need on any vehicle you have. To make sure you're running soundly, take it to Crawford's Automotive. Get your brakes checked or replaced at Crawford's, and the job will be done right every time with Chase Crawford personally doing the work on your vehicle. Take your cars and trucks to someone you can trust. For all your automotive needs, it's Crawford's Automotive on West Broadway.
Whether you're in the restaurant business or you just want to host any big event, J&V Restaurant Supply can make sure you have everything you need. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, J&V Restaurant has everything you might need. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls. If you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V, your restaurant specialists.
It's game day. Get ready for action. Fast breaks, slam dunks, buzzer-beating three-pointers, and more. Can you see all the game day excitement? Really see it. If you wished your vision was clearer, Vance Thompson Vision's world-class team and experienced doctors can help. They use the most advanced technology to provide you with the best possible outcome for your eyes. Request your free laser vision consultation from the premier LASIK and cataract surgeons in Montana. Visit VanceThompsonVision.com today for more information.
Help keep Missoula green by recycling your latex paint at Garden City Paint and Glass. Bring in your old latex paint where it will be weighed, packaged, and shipped to the recycling plant for a small fee. While you're there, discover Garden City's exclusive line of eco-friendly products from Dunn Edwards, a company with the only green LEED certified paint manufacturing facility in the world. Come see why Dunn Edwards paints have a legacy and a greener future at Garden City Paint and Glass. Keep the Garden City green. 3217 Brooks.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
State champions were crowned across high school hoops in the state of Montana over the weekend. Hello, I am Coulter Nuanez. At the Class AA tournaments in Billings over the weekend, Billings Skyview has its first girls state championship after defeating Western AA's best Missoula Hellgate 54-44. Skyview sophomore Brianna Williams poured in 25 points, and the Falcons won their first state championship since the high school opened in 1984. Just a few years ago, Skyview finished 1-19, marking one of the great rebuilds in state history. Missoula Hellgate was the Western AA champions, and they fall in the state championship game for the second time in 3 years. Hellgate senior Bailey Saylor led the Knights with 18 points in the loss. In the AA boys tournament, Braden Cook hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to lift Helena Capital to a 53-50 win over Billings Skyview in the tournament semifinals, ensuring that the Bruins would get a shot at the state championship. In the title game, Cook and the Bruins had no problem dispatching of Eastern AA number 1 Bozeman, defeating the Hawks 62-48. And finally in Missoula at the Class A state championships, Dougie Peoples of Butte Central made a moment straight out of a movie when he drilled a 25-footer at the buzzer to cap a 37-point state title outing and lift Butte Central to a 61-58 win over Lewistown to give the Maroons their first Class A state championship since 1992. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
It may not mean nothing to y'all, but understand nothing was done for me, so I don't plan on stopping at all. I want this forever mine, ever mine, ever mine. I'm shutting down in the mall and telling that girl she the one for me, and I ain't even planning the call. I want this forever mine, ever mine, ever mine. Okay, Hello, it's the Martian. Space Jam Jordans. I wrote this
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. We're actually recording this on a Tuesday mid-morning here down at Studio 49 at the Gallagher Business Building. My good friend Justin Angle. It's a business angle presented by Blackfoot Communications, where we discuss the overlay of business and sports. But right now we're discussing Justin's busted finger. He had a little fall. This is actually like way more hazardous than people realize. I almost hurt myself falling this year. I got lucky in the way that I landed on my shoulder and not my wrist, because big tree fall hard. I would have definitely broken my wrist if I would have landed like that. Our boss, our owner of Missoula Broadcasting Company, she slipped, fell, shattered her ankle. Ugh. And so it's not uncommon. You were running on the ice? Is that you were just running on the road?
I was running on the trails. We got that little dusting of snow last Tuesday, and ordinarily through the winter I run with spikes in my shoes if I'm on the trails.
Smart.
But this day, sometimes when you get that fresh snow, you don't need the spikes because it provides a little traction. And anyway, I was coming off the trail, stepped onto the road, slipped, and my finger got busted up, dislocated. So it'll heal fast.
It could be worse, could be better. None of it's good.
Yeah.
Hope you heal up fast.
At least it's my right hand, so typing and writing, with a pencil and trying to tie my shoes are, not easy tasks.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we were driving back from Boise, Idaho. We were on hour 6 of the drive and had about 2 hours left. We were almost to Dillon, and the radiator hose or some sort of coolant hose on my car burst, and then we were in a no service spot. And this was all accentuated then by us getting back into service and then getting a tow truck, getting to the mechanic shop, and then having the alerts on my phone transpire as such. Kirk Cousins re-signed by the Vikings. That made me even more mad. Then Tom Brady announces he's not retiring after all, and then Aaron Rodgers signs a $200 million contract. So overall, Sunday was a stellar day for me as well. But that's what we're going to talk about today, at least starting off here on a business angle. I think for those that see right through sort of the persona of arrogance that has defined Tom Brady's career are in no way surprised that he retired for 2 months. I also wonder, though, just how tactful was the announcements of each, right? He announced his retirement initially the day before the Super Bowl and completely stole the news cycle from the Super Bowl. And then he announces his return like an hour before Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament starts. It just can't be a coincidence, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady's an interesting media presence.
That's one way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the guy that's like all over the tabloids. He doesn't cultivate that, super splashy. He's not like the Ben Affleck, whatever that.
He was for a minute, though, right? Remember before he got married?
There was a minute
and he was dating Bridget Moynihan, and, and then they had the kid, and then all of a sudden he's married to Giselle, and nobody knows what's going on.
Right, but lately the sort of primary advertising he does is for these luxury brands and kind of obscure publications. I guess he's got Hertz now that's kind of more mainstream, and he's monetizing his personal brand in more mainstream outlets, but he's not that kind of like the sort of celebrity that's always in the tabloids, right? You don't pick up a People magazine and often see Tom Brady in there.
Right.
So this notion of dominating the news cycle, I mean, to play football at the level he's played at, there has to be a big ego in there, right? There has to be this notion that I can dominate this game. And maybe that coincides with some notion that I can dominate the news cycle and I can just grab it by the tail whenever I want to with a tweet. And we've seen how that has dominated our society over the past few years. Tom Brady might be playing that game as well.
It's so interesting, too, because the way that the sort of matriculation of news, but also prospective branding works is so interesting too. Tom Brady sometimes lives up in the Flathead Valley. He's a Yellowstone Club member. I guess the Gallatin Valley is a Yellowstone Club member, and then sometimes he is up in the Flathead Valley. And there's this video where Tom Brady was working out somewhere up in the Flathead, and he's wearing a Whitefish Bulldogs dry fit from our guys at Up Top, one of my good buddies, the Anderson brothers. But I was thinking, they posted on their Instagram because it's just a 3-second reel of Tom Brady saying, "Let's go" in the Whitefish Bulldogs shirt. And they just say, "Congratulations to the GOAT for coming back." And it's like, man, the world is so crazy that you can just have authentic Montana-made marketing from Tom Brady because of a 3-second reel on an Instagram. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I guess the ability to he's savvy enough to, if he has a presence here, try to establish some relationship to the community, and that sort of signaling is, I think, savvy marketing from a guy like Tom Brady, because he's, there's a lot of that, like, really, we look pejoratively sometimes at these, fancy celebrities that move to Montana and build these, 50,000 square foot homes on the side of a mountain or a lake and just sort of don't really participate. And so for him to kind of maybe cultivate a little bit of a local presence, support for local football, that says a lot.
That's one thing I've always thought about Howie Long. For those listeners of a certain age, they remember Howie Long was a superstar football player, Hall of Fame football player for the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders, depending on which time of his career. But he's made his home up in Montana for a long time, and his boys were always up there. I remember they used to play in Polson Hoop Fest all the time before they became NFL stars themselves. But that was one thing I always appreciated about Howie so much. You could totally just go talk to him in a cafe. He knew he was Howie Long. He didn't mind. If 10 kids went up and talked to him, asked for autographs, all good. So like you said, I think that's all we really want, right?
Yeah, accessibility, authenticity is what we want, right?
That's exactly right. Well, let's talk about Tom Brady just in general, because it seems like this sort of waffling back and forth used to be bad for your image, and now it just seems like, especially if it's expected, because a lot of people I think expected this, it's not. And so, I mean, what do you think? Does this hurt Tom Brady's brand or image, or is this just kind of par for the course?
Yeah, I don't think it hurts him at all, really. I mean, I think it's such a short period of time that he was sort of retired.
Some of the jokes were hilarious.
Oh,
too, right?
and that's part of the game, you know.
Right.
And I think he is now, like, this has been documented too. Like, when he was with the Patriots, it's sort of like a renowned no fun team, all serious. Do your job. And now that he's away from the Belichick empire, he's kind of cultivated this more fun side to his personality, or just allowed that the environment's maybe allowed that to come out.
Sure.
And, so this, waffling and then the jokes, it's all kind of part of the story, and it's all kind of positive. Like, he could still come back and be the best quarterback in the league. Nobody really doubts that. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to say he's washed up and can't do it, but, like, they were saying that for the last 10 years.
For sure.
And so, yeah, I mean, the fact that he believes he can play should be scary to any other team in the league.
Well, I think that is another factor here. It's not even just about stealing news cycles or anything like that. I actually honestly think that Tom Brady probably watched the playoffs after the Bucs were eliminated and was like, well, I thought I could walk away from the game. I just can't.
Right.
I think he knows that he's superior to almost every person. Matt Stafford's a great player, but Tom Brady had to be watching that quarterback or that Super Bowl thinking, I'm better than that guy.
Absolutely.
Business Angle, Justin Angle, joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Coming to you from Studio 49 here on the University of Montana campus. We do this every other Tuesday. Let's talk about what's going on over the hill. Montana State is flat rolling. What a month and a couple months for their athletic department, but then subsequently their university, their campus, their town, and everything about it. I said on the show yesterday, I said that it doesn't matter which side of the rivalry, quote unquote, that you reside on. I think that, first of all, sending a pair of Montana teams to the NCAA tournament is pretty cool for the state of Montana.
Oh, yeah.
Most people will see that and they'll just think of the state, not the actual either or university. They're sort of removed from the rivalry part of it. Also, though, the fact that it's on the men's side, a guy in Danny Sprinkle who's from Helena, who's an alum, who's leading his alma mater back to the big dance for the first time since he was a player. I mean, that is a totally
it's a great story.
Yeah. One of a kind story. And then on the women's side, the fact that the Montana State women had this unbelievable historic season a couple years ago, and then when they first got to the championship game, then the championship got called off. They didn't get to go to the big dance, so they got a little bit of redemption as well. So just before we get into some of the nuance of this, what do you think of this for just Montana State University, but also the state of Montana, the fact that the Bobcats are sending both teams to the big dance?
Well, at the state level, it gives us a chance to showcase the best of the state on the national stage. And, so both universities, both Montana State will have the opportunity to run advertising during these games to a national audience, right? And just have great sort of share of voice and share of eyeballs and be able to present the image that they want to be presented. Now, you also want the teams to back that up with solid performances on the court. That doesn't necessarily mean wins, but, like we talked about with the Grizz football team early in the season, like they were playing a style of play that was kind of representative of some Montana values.
Absolutely.
And so I think the ultimate in branding for Montana would be if those teams sort of play with some just super tough defense, like really kind of gritty. I think they would bolster some of the associations people already have with the state of Montana.
Well, the tough draw, Montana, I mean, either way, if you're coming out of the Big Sky Conference, you're going to get a tough draw in the big dance. But the men's basketball tournament has much less sort of just stringent, bracketed, you know, it's going to be chalk in the tournament. The women's tournament is almost always chalk. I mean, it is so rare that you have anything outside maybe a 4 seed get to the Sweet 16, and almost impossible that you get a double-digit seed. There's a lot of reasons for that. But the other thing that I think is, I want to ask you about this, because there's not a lot of parity in the women's tournament, and because, for better or worse, as we've discussed on this last couple times, women's basketball is still finding its footing, although college women's basketball is a lot more popular than professional women's basketball. But they want the tournaments, especially the early sites, to have fans. And there's never been even close to a 16 versus 1 upset, let alone like a 14 versus a 3 in the women's tournament. So they seed the initial sites as basically home games. And Montana State, they have to go on the road and play at Stanford. Like, this game is at the defending national champions, the number 2 team in the country.
That's a tough draw.
It's a pretty tough draw. So what do you think of this dynamic, though, just from a sort of business and marketing standpoint? Because on one hand, you're just given, I mean, I think the spread on this game will seriously be 40. And that's a bummer for Montana State after having a great year. But on the other hand, you know, if you put this game in Topeka, Kansas, maybe have half the people. So I guess what's sort of the balance of how this looks on a national level?
Yeah, it's a complicated question, and with many layers. I guess I would start to think about it like your overall objective, if you're the NCAA, is to grow the popularity of women's basketball. And there's a few different ways to do that. You got to have great sort of hook stories and great characters. But the tournament as a vehicle has to field more teams that have the ability to win games, you know, so it can't just be chalk. And so, the 116 games are rarely interesting, but like more games in the bracket have to be interesting. And the way to do that is to, you know, pump up a lot more teams, and you got to have more money in the system to do that, right? And so having games that don't have fans in them, that don't get ratings, those are not really monetizable games. So to have the top seeds like the Stanford host a Montana State in the first round, that does seem like it doesn't promote parity, right? But it does also become a game that's more monetizable because you have more butts in the seats, and it's a more exciting atmosphere. Probably more viewers will tune in. The local media will cover it to some degree. And so I think there's probably this needle to thread here in terms of how do you create this rising tide? Well, you got to get as much money in the system as you can and figure out ways to distribute it. The other piece of this too is that, you know, and this story came up, I think it was last year, about like the inequity between the women's facilities and the men's facilities at some of these sites.
And some of it was because of the single site last year too. I would love to see a revision of this, because the opening sites this year aren't going to be in this neutral site, New Orleans or San Antonio, place. I bet you the accommodations at Stanford are pretty nice.
Yeah, whoever made that error last time around is not making it this time around. But the point being is, like, the equity of the equity of the two tournaments has to be kept in mind by the NCAA, right? Like, there's legal reasons, but there's also, you know, ethical and branding reasons why you'd want to do that. And so, I mean, if you were to just draw up the ideal tournament, the number of teams in a tournament based on the number of quality teams in women's collegiate basketball, it'd probably be smaller than the 64 field team field. But in order to create some parity across the men's and women's games, you should have a similarly structured tournament.
Nuanez now ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. Justin Engel joining us here. It's a business angle, overlay between business and sports, presented by Blackfoot Communications. I've also thought that one area that the NCAA hasn't explored when it comes to the women's tournament and some of the initial sites is you always gravitate towards metropolitan areas. I actually think women's basketball is more popular in rural areas. We see that in Montana a lot. And so you wonder if they had opening round sites in Billings, Montana, and, like, you know, Brookings, South Dakota, and Iowa City, Iowa, or something, if that would maybe mitigate it as well. But I think a lot of the coaches would tell you that no matter what your draw is, getting to play at Stanford, even if you're going to be a 40-point dog, it's pretty unbelievable.
That's pretty cool.
Like, you get to play against a 3-time national champion. I mean, Tara Vanderveer has been there for 40 years.
And how much would Montana State have to pay to get a game like that in the regular season.
Man, right? I mean, they could get paid by Stanford to go there, but you're going to then be all the way uphill, and you're going to have no sort of neutral court. You're going to have Pac-12 refs, and you're going to have everything. So, it's a good opportunity. And like you said, it's all kind of just about showing out. I also think that it is just about having some sort of marketable storylines, and Montana State has several. I mean, Tricia Binford, their head coach, she played in the WNBA. She was a great player at Boise State, and she has a lot of ties to a lot of coaches around the region. Darian White is a budding star who I think will play professionally, certainly, and maybe even in the WNBA. I mean, I harken back to the last time a Montana school went on the women's side, and that was when the Cats went in 2017. They drew Washington and played in Seattle.
Right.
They lost 91-63. I mean, that's a 38-point margin, but they got to play at Heck Edmondson Pavilion. They got to play against Kelsey Plum, who became the all-time leading scorer in the history of women's college basketball, and Peyton Ferris, who's from Twin Bridges, Montana, Class C All-Star, has 31 points in that game. And so that's a win, right? It doesn't matter if you lose by 38. You had a lot of things that are great for your program and sort of the endorsement of it.
Absolutely. You're on the big stage, and there's a fair amount of academic research that documents the benefits of these sorts of appearances. Positive influence on the quality and quantity of applications, increased alumni giving, improved position in public rankings, publicized rankings, and part of that's just a salience effect, right? If they've heard of your school, you might move from 100 to 78 or something in the rankings. It's really hard when you're ranking schools to distinguish on meaningful metrics down that low in the rankings. I think there's all kinds of positive benefits, and we see the flip side of that. Like if the bad things happen in a team, bad behavior, arrests, all sorts of things, that can also be detrimental to a school's reputation. But the upside of getting invited to the big stage and performing on the big stage can be huge.
And last question on just sort of the details of this before we get into sort of what this means for the economic climate in both Bozeman and the state of Montana. Pretty affirming if you're Montana State to when they moved on from Brian Fish, who had a lot of pizzazz behind him as a guy that had been at Oregon and Creighton and recruited at a very high level for Dana Altman, had helped Oregon put together their Final Four roster, had coached in the Final Four before he came to Montana State. I mean, he was Mr. Slick. He had sat at the table with Phil Knight and Michael Jordan. He used to tell that story all the time. So that's a totally different deal. But then he was just a 500 coach. He brought in some good players, but he just couldn't handle being a head coach. When the job opened, Montana State has a lot of momentum right now. And there was a lot of big-time candidates that applied for that job. They went with what some people thought was the low-hanging fruit, the guy who was the alum, the guy who was Helena, born and bred, the guy who was going to be good for the press releases early on, but what do you get afterwards? And now I think Danny Sprinkle has elevated Montana State's men's basketball program like I didn't think was actually possible.
Yeah.
I thought they'd have to invest so much more in hoops to ever be able to catch Montana or Weber State. And I'm not saying they've caught them as programs. This is a single year, and Montana and Weber State still have such great tradition. But from a pure university marketing standpoint, to have this handsome, slick young guy from Helena, Montana, who's one of the great players in your program's history, now be the guy cutting down the nets. I mean, from the athletic marketing realm, this is like a dream come true, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, they can tell great stories around that success, and you wonder, like, one of the big keys to success, probably the primary keys to success in collegiate athletics is recruiting.
Yep.
And so does he have a form of authenticity when he's recruiting out-of-state families, when he can tell them, I know what Montana is. I've lived there my whole life. That sort of storyline.
For sure.
I know I will bring your child into a safe, supportive environment where he can thrive. And I think that resonates if it's somebody who's grown up here, gone to the school. You can sort of string together a pretty compelling storyline with recruiting. If it's some new coach who's super splashy, who doesn't have ties to the region, that can be compelling if you're a parent and you sort of find that person's individual story. Like, I want my kid to play for that person.
For sure.
But that narrative is detached from place, right? And so, Montana State, we've got deep attachment to place. And so when you have a coach that shares that attachment, I think that can be a compelling pitch in recruiting, but it can also be a compelling pitch as far as him going out there and selling the team in the community.
Well, you have dealt with two different head football coaches here at the University of Montana, or head coaches, in football and men's basketball, and Bobby Houck and Travis DeCuire.
Yeah.
We first kind of got to know each other because you were so impressed with some of the guys that Travis DeCuire had on his team that were in your class, and that's sort of how we got connected. But I do think that there's also a distinct element of an understanding of the place as well as a pride in the place that goes well beyond sports.
Yes.
Like Coach Houck wants his players to go to class because he's a University of Montana alum. He wants them to get a degree that he feels is valuable. Travis DeCuire, very similar. So do you feel like that element sort of exists?
Absolutely, it exists. And I think it's compelling when you have a coach that shares that bond with his or her athletes. And, and I think that can be part of the recruiting pitch as well. Your parents want their kids. Most kids are not going to go into the NBA, right? I'm not going to monetize their athletic experience later in life. So they want kids to get the education, right? And a coach that understands what the education is and has earned that particular education, that can be a really compelling pitch.
Justin Angle joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. It's a business angle. Now, we have to do this because this is what we always do. We go down the dystopian rabbit hole.
Sure, let's do it.
But I was texting you the other day. So you talk about the Bobcats going to the national championship in football in January and then to the big dance for both men's and women's basketball. That's the first time that's happened in the Big Sky since 2004 when Montana did that same thing. The Grizz that year lost in the football national championship as well, Bobby Houck's second year. This has been such an amazing advertisement for Montana State University, Bozeman, Montana, and the state of Montana.
Yeah.
But with the explosive growth that's already occurring in these places, is this a good thing?
Gosh, I mean, I don't really look at it as good or bad. It just sort of is, and it brings with it, upside and downside as far as the challenges it places to the community. When you have an influx of people, the biggest issue facing Montana and Bozeman in particular is housing, right? I think, last quarter, the median home price was over $700,000. It'll probably be north of $800,000, this month or something like that, according to some folks we've talked to.
812 was the number.
812, geez, Louise.
We had a rental place in Bozeman for 10 years, a little 3-bedroom condo. And it's probably a mile and a half from campus. It's in a fine location. It's right by the mall in Bozeman. And just in the, those packed in college rental subdivisions. And we just, kept it around because it was affordable and whatever. Well, we just saw it on Zillow the other day for $587,000. So that just puts into perspective. I don't even think they changed the carpet or anything. Yeah. It's just as is. So unbelievable.
And there's not many jobs in Bozeman that can support the income you would need to afford a home like that.
This is the breaking point. This is going to be the thing that a lot of people are disregarding.
Yeah.
One of the most popular activities to do in Bozeman, this is going to sound funny to people that haven't spent time in Bozeman, is to go out to breakfast, to go out to brunch. It is really hard to go out to brunch no matter what day it is in Bozeman. There's so many places that have so many unique and organic and sort of compelling options.
Sure.
So you better have 2.5 hours if you want to go out to brunch with your friends or your family or whatever. But I guess the thing that people aren't realizing, though, is unless they want to charge you $35 for your bacon and eggs, they're not going to be able to offer wages to continue to serve you said brunch if no one can find a house for less than $3,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, we're facing that here in Missoula in many dimensions. I think there was a story in the Missoulian yesterday about the number of jobs in local and county government that are unfilled at the moment because we can't find people who can afford who can live in those jobs or do those jobs and afford to live in the community.
Right.
Rental prices are through the roof here in Missoula. And these effects are happening throughout Montana. And a lot of it, too, is we've talked about it, on my podcast, A New Angle. What's happened is this has happened so quickly. Systems aren't designed to handle this rapid influx of people, the rapid increase in house pricing, because housing takes time. Right. The market can't. The only response a market with constrained supply can have is to increase prices. Right. You have to put more supply in the system, and that takes time. And then you layer on supply chain disruptions and the sort of inaccessibility of a lot of building products, the lack of builders. All of that has made this even worse because it's been really difficult to put supply on the market.
That's the other reason. There's a variety of the dichotomy between Bozeman and Missoula is always interesting to analyze because there's several different factors. Missoula was a town that was founded on tangible industry like timber and the mills and the railroad. Bozeman, a tangible industry that was agriculture, and then became sort of tourism. But one of the reasons why Bozeman has grown more rapidly than Missoula as of late is because of the ability to grow. There's just more room in the valley.
Yeah.
You can only really build up in the Missoula Valley now. I mean, you can build outside of the valley, and that's, I think, where the next urban sprawl is going to come. But in the valley, there's not a lot of places to build, especially when it comes to residential real estate. So Bozeman just has more room. But the other thing is, there's the infrastructure part of this for sure. Missoula has already had massive infrastructure challenges, and that's a whole different history lesson for people that don't know why Malfunction Junction exists, basically. Then there's the housing and the economic challenges that come with rapid population growth, supply chain distribution, like you were just talking about. But then there's also the environmental aspects of this.
It's huge.
One of the great things that I think we don't praise enough living in Montana, but specifically living in the Missoula Valley and the Gallatin Valley, is the water that we have.
Yes.
The quality of the water, the supply of the water. I read this horrifying article all about the water shortage that's coming in Bozeman that people are not acknowledging. When I lived in Ellensburg, Washington, Ellensburg is one of the preeminent farm towns in the country because it is the capital of Timothy hay, which is what livestock eats primarily, especially in China, right? And there's such a huge battle for water, particularly with the Seattle metropolitan area only 90 minutes away, and sort of the Continental Divide, the way the watershed works. That's all to say that at the Ellensburg Daily Record, the newspaper I worked at, we had a full-time water rights reporter.
Oh, yeah.
That was a full-time job.
Yeah.
200 stories a year on what's going on with water rights. And I think that sometimes people forget about that. I mean, and this could be a huge impact if the continuing branding on a national level of Montana continues with Tom Brady living in Montana and the show Yellowstone blowing up, and now Montana State Athletics blowing up, and the Grizz trying to keep pace and likely having a national imprint on it as well. There's just so many different things that can get affected.
Yeah, the natural beauty is what draws a lot of folks here. And the more folks that come here, they put more strain on the natural resources and more strain on that natural beauty. And water is a big part of that. And it is finite. We can't really create more water. In fact, a lot of the climate models would suggest we're going to have less water. Now, that's not evenly distributed throughout the state. There's some areas that are going to get more rain. There's some that are going to get less. We're going to have less snowpack overall, likely.
For sure.
And that's going to contribute to different runoff and different access to water. So, yeah, that's a big problem. Throughout the West, it's been more salient in recent years than it has here in Montana, but I think that reality is coming here fast.
There's so many different realities. The last one I want to touch on is Nuanez now ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Not to leave you guys in a bad mood as you listen to this. I just think we all got to think about it. It's not necessarily, like Justin said, it's not good or bad. It's just is.
Yeah.
We just have to analyze it. But the last storyline that came out, which is so indicative of the way the economy is tied to sports and vice versa, was the Class B state basketball championships were in Bozeman this last weekend. If you think about Class B towns, those are going to be towns like Three Forks and Choteau and Glasgow and Harlem and Lodgegrass, where people come from very simple backgrounds. There's not a lot of, I shouldn't say this is a total implication, but you're not going to have the same median household income, let's say, in Harlem, Montana as you are in Bozeman. That's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, they're not going to go home shopping during that trip to Bozeman.
That's right. So then the controversy, though, was with all these people coming from small towns for both the boys and girls tournaments, which should be such an awesome descending of small town people into the Bozeman urban metropolis that it is now. People were just upside down because they couldn't stay anywhere, because the average hotel price in Bozeman,
it's crazy.
I don't think you can get a hotel room in Bozeman for less than $250, and that's talking like microtel or whatever basic standard low-end hotel you can get. And then if you want to stay, any of the normal chains, or heaven forbid you want to stay one of the hotels downtown, you're talking a couple $1,000 to be in Bozeman all weekend.
Yeah, that's an expensive weekend, and one that not a lot of folks can afford for these milestone moments for their families and children. So yeah, that's a real problem, and it will be interesting to see, like, do those smaller school leagues decide to take their tournaments elsewhere? If the families can't afford to travel to the tournament site, it becomes an unworkable model for that league.
Well, the irony, because I think that a lot of times Bozeman and Missoula have been left out because they've had opportunities to host the Big Sky tournament. Therefore, the facilities weren't available. Now the Big Sky tournament at a neutral site, so we have these opportunities to actually host. But it might actually be better for the economy all the way around if we just are bringing people to Great Falls and Helena and have her in Ronan than maybe bring them to the big city. I think it might work out better for everybody on both sides.
I think so. We do. I mean, this is a whole nother podcast that we'll do a whole nother episode.
Right.
But so much of what we do with youth sports is to narrow the funnel, to exclude people,
which is so unfortunate.
And it's bad for outcomes, right? We want to cast the widest net as possible. We want as many people in the funnel at the top as we can, so that we can create the best athletes at the best system. So the more we sort of create taxes and barriers to entry, it just doesn't do anybody any good.
That's why anytime anybody asks me, if you won the lottery, what would you buy? I say one of the first things I'd buy pairs of basketball shoes for every single kid I possibly could think of to have them. No matter if they're in Montana or around the country, I'm going to buy 10,000 pairs of basketball shoes. Give them to the kids and let them have something to hoop in. Justin Angle, Business Angle here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, man.
Business Angle presented by Blackfoot Communications. We will have more on Nuanez Now back after this.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Here with Tom. Window tinting is at an all-time high demand. So, Tom, how do people get a hold of you to get their car on the books at Aspen Sound?
Colter, well, at this time of year, we stay pretty busy with the window tints, so make sure just to give us a buzz, and we'll get you on the books. With the warm weather right around the corner, it's good to get in early rather than late.
Aspen Sound, located at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
I'm all about keeping my family driving safe. Dad, pothole.
Got it.
So I insist we choose Les Schwab tires for safety services like brakes, steering, and alignment. Stuff those cheap tire centers don't offer. Because I want a backseat drive with confidence. Dad, speed check.
At the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale, save up to $150 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Introducing Sportsbet Montana. Powered by the Montana Lottery. Join in the excitement of Sportsbet Montana by betting on your favorite sports and teams, both collegiate and professional, including NFL, NBA, MLB, MMA, NASCAR, and more. There are multiple ways to bet, including in-game, which gets you in on the action live as the game unfolds, and parlay betting, where you have the chance to win big. Sportsbet Montana is secure and interactive. Learn more at sportsbetmontana.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The Silver Slipper is the place to watch all the basketball madness this month. Monday through Friday happy hour from 5 to 7 p.m. Half off drinks, $1 off beer, and $1 off wine. There will be daily drink and food specials, plus the Silver Slipper Bracket Challenge with prizes for first through third place and a daily drawing for a gift card. Must be present to win. The Silver Slipper has over 55 TVs, so you won't miss a game. Head on down to the Silver Slipper, across from Walmart on Highway 93 in Missoula. The Silver Slipper is the place to watch all the basketball madness this month.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
State champions were crowned across high school hoops in the state of Montana over the weekend. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. At the Class AA tournaments in Billings over the weekend, Billings Skyview has its first girls state championship after defeating Western AA's best Missoula Hellgate 54-44. Skyview sophomore Brianna Williams poured in 25 points, and the Falcons won their first state championship since the high school opened in 1984. Just a few years ago, Skyview finished 1-19, marking one of the great rebuilds in state history. Missoula Hellgate was the Western AA champions, and they fall in the state championship game for the second time in 3 years. Hellgate senior Bailey Saylor led the Knights with 18 points in the loss. In the AA boys tournament, Braden Cook hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to lift Helena Capital to a 53-50 win over Billings Skyview in the tournament semifinals, ensuring that the Bruins would get a shot at the state championship. In the title game, Cook and the Bruins had no problem dispatching of Eastern AA number 1 Bozeman, defeating the Hawks 62-48. And finally in Missoula at the Class A state championships, Dougie Peoples of Butte Central made a moment straight out of a movie when he drilled a 25-footer at the buzzer to cap a 37-point state title outing and lift Butte Central to a 61-58 win over Lewistown to give the Maroons their first Class A state championship since 1992. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
If you think you want to roll, see this is what they made Cadillac trucks for. Let's go to a place you ain't never been down in the country. I bet I had you saying you love me. The shawty wanna ride with me. We can get low. Hop into the Chevy 4-door blow. Wanna ride with me. Let your head down. You said you want a thug, don't be scared now. Shawty wanna ride with me. We can get low.
What up, Montana? Welcome back. It's Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. Hope you're having an outstanding Tuesday. Looks like the sun is about to come out. How about this? The news of the day on a national level, the proposed and potential elimination of daylight savings time. I know a lot of you out there with kids would definitely vouch for that. Us that are driving back from Boise, Idaho and losing an hour when we're already going to be so tired after the Big Sky tournament, we'd vouch for it too. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament because we are hitting the road tomorrow night. We're driving to Spokane, and we'll fly out early Thursday morning from Spokane to San Diego, and that's where Montana State, the men, play the first game of the Friday session. 10:45 a.m. they'll take on Texas Tech. That's 11:45 a.m. Montana time. MSU in their first national tournament, NCAA tournament, since 1996. The men's tournament is underway with Texas Southern taking on Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The Montana tie here is that Texas Southern, one of their standout players, is the man formerly known as Carl Nicholas. He now goes by Jordan Carl Nicholas. He was a freshman here at the University of Montana on their last NCAA tournament team. And then he transferred, and he's averaging 9.2 points and 6.0 rebounds per game. He averaged 11 and 7 last year for Texas Southern. So Texas Southern won a first four game last year to get into the tournament, and now they're playing in the first four. Southern leads A&M Corpus Christi 32-30 at halftime. So how about the rest of the bracket? Let's look in quickly. And by the way, please go fill out your bracket if you want to be a part of our ESPN Bracket Challenge. We have so many phenomenal prizes for you. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Paradise Falls, who's providing $400 cash and $100 in gift cards. We also have gift cards from Dazzler's Car Wash, Tagliari Deli, Katie O'Keefe's, the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill, the AC Hotel. We got a couple memorabilia boxes courtesy of Zootown Sports Cards as well. So please go enter. We'll have first, second, and third place prizes. Let's look at the bracket real quick as we wind down here on Nuanez now, because I thought that there was some stuff that really stood out. First of all, just because of where we live and the proximity and some of the people that we were able to follow. Well, I'm not able to follow. You can follow whoever you want on Twitter, but I follow a lot of people that cover the Mountain West because there's a lot of parallels there when it comes to coaching changes, coaching searches. You know, I also kind of fell into following some Boise State people because of the crossover there when Jeff Choate was potentially going to take the head coaching job there, and then subsequently guys like Kane Ione and Nate Potter from that MSU staff went to Boise State. I also follow Wyoming just because, you know, it's our neighboring state here in Montana, and I have some friends that are very into the Cowboys. So because of that, maybe I have a slight proximity bias, but I also thought that the Mountain West was a really good league this year. And so I think that Wyoming having to play the 12-seed play-in game versus Indiana, that's a pretty tough draw. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys made a little run. I've watched them a little bit not only because of the ties I have with friends from around these parts that know about Wyoming, but I also think Jeff Linder is a heck of a coach, and he also was at Northern Colorado, so I got to know Coach Linder. He's been on this show several times, so I do think that Wyoming and Boise State, who got an 8 seed and have to play Memphis, I think that's a tough draw. I think it's a bad draw, honestly. I think Boise State deserved to be better than that. They're in the top 25. They're the regular season Mountain West champions and the tournament champions as well. So I thought Boise State maybe deserved as high as maybe a 6, but they get an 8. And the thing is, an 8 is worse than getting a 6, obviously, but it's also worse than getting a 10, because I do think you have a better shot in the 10-7 game or even the 11-6 game than you do in the 8-9 game. 8-9 is going to be tough, and then you're also right there with the number 1 seed as well. So I don't know. I thought Boise State and Wyoming maybe got a little bit slighted. But the other storylines I like in the bracket, Gonzaga, even though they went undefeated all the way until the national championship game last year, there's still this narrative around the country that the Zags have something to prove. And with how much they've been rolling this year, I think some people are tenuous and picking them in their bracket. I don't know why. I think even with Mark Few at the helm, hard to say. I don't really know how you overstate what a good job they've done and how much of a basketball school they've made that into. Other teams I think are compelling. I was at 14 different NCAA tournament games last year. I think that Arkansas is really, really good. I think that they are a team that can really turn up the pressure defensively. They're really, really athletic. And Eric Musselman's a great big game coach. So I think that that's an interesting fold. I also misstated on the show the other week, I guess earlier this week, that Chris Beard was still at Texas Tech. Chris Beard led Texas Tech to the Final Four in 2019. He's no longer at Texas Tech because he's at the University of Texas. He replaced Shaka Smart at UT, and so that was in this last offseason. So they replaced him with Mark Adams. So a first-year head coach there for the Red Raiders, who take on Montana State in the first round. Probably the number one national storyline, other than, can Kansas become more than just the perennial Big 12 champions and punch down the door? That's a key storyline. Can Baylor make another run at it and repeat as national champions? That's a great storyline. But probably the one you're going to hear the most about is about Duke, because it is Coach K's last run. And it's been sort of a roller coaster these last couple weeks as he has this farewell journey. They have their final home game at Cameron Indoor. You got tickets going for almost $80,000 a pop. Just crazy to think about. Hundreds, literally, of his former players show up. And heartbreaking for Duke, not heartbreaking for anybody else, because you either love Duke or you hate him. That's what makes him great. That's what makes Coach K great. But Duke loses to North Carolina in Coach K's final home game at Cameron Indoor, so how about that? But then they make a great run all the way to the ACC championship game, but then they get smacked by an upstart Virginia Tech team. But the last run of the Blue Devils under Mike Krzyzewski, that's certainly going to be a huge storyline to watch. Other ones that I think are interesting, Kelvin Sampson, who started his career at Montana Tech. He's a disciple of the Judd Heathcote coaching tree from the University of Montana. He's now at Houston. They got to the Final Four last year. They're a 5 seed this year. Much tougher path, but can they get there? That's an interesting one. One of the other interesting storylines I was reading about on Twitter, speaking of the Mountain West, Colorado State is the highest seeded team out of the Mountain West and probably one of the great basketball seasons in their school's history. And as of last night, they didn't know their travel plans. They did not have a charter provided by the NCAA or any sort of practice time or lodging accommodations. And then that story from the Colorado State, media started circulating around, and you realize there's several schools in that boat. So will they get there in efficient fashion? How are you going to be ready to play without the same comfort and sort of linear and smoothed out travel plans? It just seems like it's a distinct disadvantage. LSU is a 6 seed. That's an interesting storyline because Will Wade was dismissed after several transgressions and indiscretions in the recruiting world. It took quite an effort for Will Wade to get fired from LSU, but finally he gets dismissed. So LSU, are they overrated as a 6 seed? I'm not sure. And couple of other primary storylines I like. Auburn was once upon a time the number one team in the country. They have a phenomenally talented roster. They potentially have a kid who's going to be a number one overall pick. But can Bruce Pearl, get it done? Can he lead his team? Tennessee was really talented last year. They had a couple NBA guards. They're back to being talented this year. They went to the SEC championship game. They're a 3 seed. Can they avoid an upset? They got drilled by Wayne Tinkle last year and the Oregon State Beavers in the first round. So can Tennessee avoid an upset? That's always a storyline to watch when a team is trying to reaffirm and reprove themselves. And then probably outside those Mountain West teams that are mid-majors, the other mid-majors that I've followed this year that I think are really good include South Dakota State, who had a tremendous year in the Summit League. And I also think that probably the worst draw for mid-major teams, I just think it's silly when the committee does this, is Murray State, who went 28-2 and went undefeated in their conference, playing San Francisco. San Francisco's from the WCC, same conference as Gonzaga. They and St. Mary's both get at-large bids, so the WCC's strong. St. Mary's is a 5 seed. But San Francisco, I'm not saying that a 10 seed's wrong. I actually think that's about right. I think they should have been between a 9 and an 11. Murray State, I'm not saying a 7 seed's wrong. I think they should have been between a 6 and an 8. But to have two of the best mid-majors in the tournament playing each other is silly, especially since Murray State was an honor qualifier. So I do think that those teams like Murray State, South Dakota State, that have such great regular seasons, making them play tough draws early. I mean, it's what March Madness is all about. Maybe they can go get it done. But when you have to play a mid-major and you are a mid-major in the first round, it sort of defeats the purpose. Give me a 6-11 game there with Murray State and have the 11 be a play-in team. That's what I want. Bracket Challenge, go in, enter on ESPN.com. Nuanez now, ESPN Montana. Search that. Enter a bracket, 1 entry per person. Almost $3,000 in prizes for first, second, third place. Go get it done. Get them entered before Thursday. What's going on the rest of the week? We'll give you our Wednesday show and our travel plans for Thursday and Friday. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
Have you ever worried if you're up to snuff in the bedroom? Are you looking to skip the waiting lines and the admission at the pharmacy? Do you want effective male enhancement delivered right to your door? Palmer's Drug of Missoula has you covered. All you need is a prescription from a doctor and a home address for Palmer's Drug to ship to. If you want to improve your love life and get right in the bedroom, all while keeping it discreet, look into home delivery through Palmer's Drug. Palmer's Drug, your trusted local pharmacy in Missoula.
Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
As the seasons change in Montana, it's critical to make sure your vehicle's in full working order. And that's why now is the time to take your rig to Crawford's Automotive. Crawford's Auto on West Broadway does any work you need on any vehicle you have. To make sure you're running soundly, take it to Crawford's Automotive. Get your brakes checked or replaced at Crawford's, and the job will be done right every time with Chase Crawford personally doing the work on your vehicle. Take your cars and trucks to someone you can trust. For all your automotive needs, it's Crawford's Automotive on West Broadway.
Katie O'Keefe's Bar and Casino is one of the best places to watch sports in all of the Garden City. Located at 2100 Stevens in the Stevens Center, this friendly neighborhood hideaway is a fantastic place to watch the NCAA tournaments with your friends and family. And Katie's is also a proud sponsor of the Nuanez Now Bracket Challenge, offering more than $2,500 in prizes for whomever can fill out that perfect bracket. All March long, come watch the March Madness at Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are cold and the people are friendly.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Here at Florence Coffee Co., we are proud to serve the finest flavors under the big sky, like our smooth and delectable cold brewed toddy coffee. Florence Coffee's fresh brewed toddy coffee is known for its low acidity and smooth flavor. Served over ice, add your favorite flavor or an iced coffee like no other. Try one today at any of our Flowco locations around Western Montana and visit us at florencecoffeeco.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Females up, black tails down, then hustle up. Wanna cuddle up, you shy? I'm your comforter. I know you love it, huh? I make it feel right if it's real tight, wrong hole, alright?
I make your mouthpiece obese like Della Reese. When I release, you lose teeth like little C's. Player, please, blood floods your dungarees. And that's just the half of my war path. Laugh now, cry later.
Oh, Biggie for Notorious B.I.G. here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. What's your favorite rap album? Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. But if you want to, text us and we'll read them on the show tomorrow. 888-1029. What's the greatest hip-hop album in your opinion of all time? Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Tuesday. It's been a great show. If you missed anything in the show, we heard from a couple state champions, Dougie Peoples, who hit the game winner for Butte Central to lift them to the Class A state title here in Missoula, as well as Braden Cook, who hit a semifinal buzzer beater for Helena Capital to beat Billings Skyview, and then led the Bruins to the AA title with a resounding win over Bozeman. We heard from both those guys. Also gave you a lay of the land of the rest of the state tournaments from over the weekend. We had our Treasure State Stars. We also had this week's business angle with Justin Angle, the overlay between business and sports, and gave you some storylines from the NCAA tournament as well as some details on our bracket challenge. You can find everything from today's show on the Nuanez Now podcast, proudly presented by Sportsbet Montana as well as the Advocates. Tomorrow, Abdul Muhammad, senior for the Montana State Bobcats, will join us. We'll also have our Grizz Star of the Week, but it's going to be rounding up all of the other sports that have been going on that haven't been hoops. We'll talk some softball, some Grizz track, and maybe even some Grizz soccer, as they have had some former Grizz have some big performances lately. We may or may not hear from Alex Eshelman. Depends on her travel itinerary. We'll hear from her sometime this week. She's heading to San Diego as well. So we'll either meet up with her in person down there, or she might call in from there to here because they're going a little bit earlier than myself and Riley Corcoran. So either way, we'll have Alex on sometime later on this week. Also, our ESPN Roundtable will feature Leon Costello, the athletic director for the Bobcats. How has he been able to do this? How has he been able to build an athletic department that's had so much success? All that and more. Then we'll be in sunny San Diego Thursday and Friday. Can't wait for the rest of the week. The tournament takeover continues. Nuanez Now back at 4 p.m. tomorrow. See you then.
This is Brent.